Hello, everyone. I'm Nadine, owner of NG Platinum Homes, and welcome to another episode of What Makes This Design Great. I have with me today Pamela O'Brien of Pamela Hope Designs, highlighting another amazing project that you have for us, which is a kitchen.
Yes, it
So
is.
here we have this is the Uptown Park project. It's
Correct.
a townhome.
It's a townhome.
So now we have here the before, which you were telling me earlier. This was quite the aesthetic back in the 80s, right?
This is probably, I would guess that this was probably remodeled in the 90s, but this townhome is in a very kind of quiet area, very close to Uptown Park and the Galleria. And in the 80s, that was the place to be in Houston. That's
Mhm.
where all the cool kids lived. That's where all the good stuff was happening. And so my clients actually had hired me about 3 years before to redo a down to the studs, complete inside outside remodel of a grand 1945 River Oaks home,
Oh,
which was
I'm
lovely.
sure it was
It
beautiful.
was just it's a lovely home, and it was just so beautiful and so much fun. So when they called me and told me they wanted me to go look at a townhome with them, I was, "Why? Why would we go look at a townhome?" And when I walked into this one, I went, "Why would we look at this townhome?" And then I walked a little further,
Mhm.
and there are 12 townhomes, and they share 6 acres on Buffalo Bayou with the ravine and all of nature and a
Mm,
pool and just common areas that are so magnificent. Additionally, this couple had owned a historic home in Galveston, and we renovated that right after the River Oaks home, and they started loving being down there. So rather than maintaining the great big pool and the great
mhm.
big yard and the great big house in River Oaks, they said, we want a lock and leave lifestyle. And this, although you still have your own home, you don't have to live in a high rise. It was very much a lock and leave lifestyle. And all of the exterior and the gardening and the pool was taken care of by someone else.
Easy maintenance.
I became a believer,
Mhm.
and then we decided, "Okay, fine. The location is great. The back outside areas, the common areas are great, but let's talk about the inside of this house."
Yeah. So let's see what you did. Let's go to the after. Wow.
Big difference.
Huge difference. Color palette is very neutral, but beautiful. So let's first talk about the paint colors that you chose here for the cabinetry.
Yes, so this is the cabinetry is actually a paint from wood mode. We bought factory built cabinets and we
Okay.
did them in a gray color that was a wood mode standard. And also we have some base cabinets that are walnut because this was another situation where there was a little bit of interest in mid-century modern and
Mhm.
modern design. Whereas in the former home, the husband, we went more towards his aesthetic because it was a traditional home and he's traditional.
Mm.
But the wife was really, I'm really more modern. So when they picked this house, they were both on board. Now's the time to go a little more modern. In the former home, we also had made some purchases that were transitional. And so almost all the furniture translated and transferred beautifully to the new home, which was really great since it had only been a couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the cabinetry from wood mode here is just so beautiful. The uppers that are lighted inside, and then here's a tip, a pro tip for your listeners and viewers and fans. If you're going to have upper cabinets that are going to show like that, you've got to curate them. So if you don't have a wonderful collection of stuff, you're going to need to go find it.
Yeah.
And that can sometimes be the hardest part of a
Mhm.
project.
Mm.
I have spent a lot of time, I'll decide what needs to go in these upper cabinets, and it'll come to me in my head. And then I get to go find it in the real world.
Well, and you know what? That's a great tip because for me, for some of my clients, they see these cabinetry on Instagram with the upper cabinets that are glass and they love the look.
Mhm.
But then their following comment to me is, well, I love this glass, but I don't want to show all of my stuff in there.
No, I don't wanna see Campbell's soup cans in
Yeah,
there. I
or
really
just
don't.
stacks of things that are,
No.
not making sense. So, yeah, I think you're right about that one. Putting those upper cabinets with glass for the purpose of only highlighting something that looks nice.
And we did a bit of the search. This was a client I had a really great relationship with, and we would sometimes shop together because we really enjoyed it. We did a bit of a search. We found them at one of the vendors that I use a lot, Elizabeth Cole, but we couldn't find enough. If we zoom out a little, you'll see that there's, I think, at least 8.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
I think we found 4 or 3. So then we did a deep dive and we found the manufacturer and we were able to order a few more. But a level of consistency and a very clean look in a lighted cabinet like that is important. And it looks like $1,000,000. but it doesn't always just happen with what you have in your, garage.
Oh,
Sometimes you
absolutely.
have to look for
It
it.
usually doesn't, I would
No.
assume. And then the countertops are nice and clean. What material is that on the
That is
countertops?
Silestone Lagoon.
Mm,
So I generally tend to use more natural stone, but this really for us the trick was we wanted to keep the limestone floors. Excuse me. They're not limestone. They are marble,
okay.
travertine, and they're
Mhm,
kind of creamy brown.
mhm,
The home overall was not going to be that. So this was a bit of a juggling act because this was a lot of flooring and tearing out all that flooring would have
mm,
been a massive
mhm.
project. So what we did is we looked at many, many natural stones and quartzes, man-made quartzes, until we found one that we felt blended enough with our white paint, our white backsplash, and our floor with some creamy brown, but also splotches of white.
Yeah, and it looks like it works for sure.
That was, the final decision, and then you can see here with this kitchen, it has that kind of groovy little nook to the side, and we put a cool design within reach, mid-century modern
Mhm.
looking. This is also what we call a secret recliner, so it looks super sharp, but you can recline and be comfortable.
Nice.
The, husband, it loved reading the paper. Sometimes I would be in the paper, and I know he would be sitting right there with his coffee, and then he would text me and say, "Guess what? I saw you in the paper." And I'm like, guess what? I'm so happy you're sitting in your secret recliner."
So you can have a recliner that looks good.
There are actually quite a few of them now. So that is a gift from the furniture industry. But this kitchen is not really would not really have been eat in. There's as you can see one chair in the corner, that would not really have given us room for very big
Mm,
table.
mhm,
Or
yeah.
it would have made kind of an awkward space and would have left half the room empty if, let's say, we put a small square, small round table. So our answer, and I used Kitchen and Bath Concepts, which I think is a wonderful kitchen design. I partnered with them
Mhm,
because we had a lot of very, very serious plumbing, electrical, gas lines that needed to be moved, and that's really not my area of
mhm.
expertise. We came up with, and they helped design this drop down table that extends.
That's nice.
And it's permanent, we don't move it, it was
Yeah,
built like that, but yes, it's great because it's a great little table for 4.
yeah, which sounds like these particular clients didn't need an excess amount of seating, right?
No, it was a couple, they, have, added grandchildren to the mix, but it worked out really well for every day, and they have a nice dining room too, but it was perfect for most of their kitchen entertaining.
Yeah. So then let's talk about the lighting here. Nice accent with
Yes, those were a bit of a search also. Those are by Arteriors, and they're a polygon. I wanna say a hexagon, but I know there's way more than 8 sides to
yeah.
those bad boys. So if you look at the backsplash, you can just very, very barely see that it's a bit of a honeycomb hexagon
Oh, yeah.
detail, and
Mhm.
so we loved and then there are sconces also that are, very quiet, but we needed a little extra light over there, but we really didn't want those to be an accent.
So you wanted more of other parts of the kitchen to stand out as
Yes, such
opposed
as
to
the custom metal hood with the
Mhm.
polished band. I'm sure you're aware metal hoods are very, very expensive.
Yes.
So when we bothered to do that, and you can see parts of the lights reflected, and that's
Mhm.
almost a mirror, that beautiful polished metal band there. That really needed to stand out because that was actually a fairly large investment when you look at the kitchen.
Yeah.
It's a large line item.
And where did that come from? The hood?
That we had it custom made, so we had it fabricated.
Okay, nice.
We designed it, and then,
Mhm.
our contractor had a metal fabricator.
Perfect. All right, so we have a nice simple plumbing fixture here for the sink.
Yes, I like faucets to have a little bit of personality and a
Mhm.
bit of style and a bit of height. I just like that look, particularly when you have a lot of flat planes going across the
Mhm.
kitchen, having 1 or 2 things pop up and be of interest, but be quiet. So that's a Hans Grohe and a stainless steel fixture, plumbing fixture.
That's very nice. Oh, and I do wanna mention also the hardware on the cabinets.
Yeah, so we picked that. When we picked the wood mode cabinets, we picked from the collection. And when you do job built or factory built cabinets like that, it's kind of nice. So that's a very clean style.
Mm.
There are numerous manufacturers who make that, but they're kind of flat.
Mhm.
But you can see from the edge They're kind of rectangular and they're comfortable to use and they're just nice and clean and blend in.
Yeah, they have a little bit more seems like substance to them when when you would grab them by the
Yes.
looks of it, as
Yes.
opposed to some of the others that you might find in other places.
Correct.
S
These are a nice, kind of sturdy and useful, but quite clean looking and fit in really well with anything from, I'd say, mid-century through the most modern design you can think of.
That's good, nice and simple. And then we'll talk about the artwork here, which is quite nice with the chair, color combination.
Yes, so the chairs is the secret recliner from Design Within Reach, and then the artwork, is he's now sadly deceased, but his name was Arthur Turner, and he was a beloved local artist,
Mhm.
and he taught do you know the
I
name?
have, yes,
Okay,
heard of him.
yes, so he taught, I think, at Glassell and numerous places, and we found this again through Arno Fine Art Consulting. I think that was the first large project that I had used Elise Arno on, and we loved this piece, and interestingly, this was also the, artist that we used in another project down the road for a family in a mid-century modern family home addition project. So we have found his pieces quite lovely. Again, we're picking up with this bit of a mid-century vibe, a little bit of blue and orange as our accent colors,
Mhm,
and they look quite nice. And then another fun detail, I think, is the very kind of modern looking fireplace setup, which we chose to keep. In the former home, it had been a very kind of orangey, dark stained
mhm.
wood, red orange. We didn't really like that color, so we just restained everything, refinished it to match our walnut cabinetry and our island, and then curating the little collection of vases, that's
Again,
a project
yeah.
too. But those are all I believe they're all Jonathan Adler, and so I was able to find that was actually a lot of fun. I think that those are just great.
I love the look of the fireplace, it's beautiful.
Isn't it pretty? It's such a cozy, wonderful little nook. And then we just chose to stack some logs and give it just kind of a fun look. I don't know if they really did fires very often, but they're ready for one.
Yeah, exactly. And then lastly, we will look at the chairs that you have here by the table.
Yeah, so looking at that room, we really didn't want to clutter it up. And so acrylic chairs were just becoming a little bit more popular. And when I recommended that, we all got on board and said, yeah, something just kind of see through, kind of modern, kind of fun. They're quite comfortable.
Mm.
As we were finishing the project, once the house is built, there's still plenty of decorating to do.
Yes.
And so we would meet and we would look over catalogs and we would spread out fabrics. And that became a wonderful little working table also, and the chairs are quite comfortable, and I thought they were just a great look. You sort of don't even see them.
Yeah, and I like that. I mean, I guess, I would see these acrylic chairs in a lot of spaces, and the point that you made about that is just see through. It's like they're not there
Right?
because you're not really wanting that to be a highlight.
No.
And that's something I would have never thought of is to use an acrylic chair just to for the function purpose of needing a chair, but you don't want them to be any star of the show in any way. So
Right.
that's a great
Acrylic
idea.
and glass does that for us,
Yeah.
and glass chairs don't really make sense, right? So
Yeah.
acrylic is our answer,
Yeah.
and those were from CB2.
Oh.
So this is a pretty significant remodel. We have a lot of very high quality pieces, but I love to be able to mix and match when it makes sense, and I love to save clients money where it makes sense. I want you to splurge where you want to
Mhm.
splurge, and where we can save, I love to help you save.
And I love that too, and I'm sure your clients love it as well.
They're generally on board with that.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing this amazing project, and stay tuned for the next episode.